All right, I'm here with my friend Jose at his farm at Tincana. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for visiting.
Yeah, we were in Santa Marta, like I showed you, and just came up last night. So he's been showing me all the new coffee he's growing and all the work that he's been doing on the property, which is how many hectares?
The property is 150 hectares.
150 hectares.
Yeah, it's quite big. It goes from 400 meters above sea level to 1,400.
Nice. Yeah.
So it's a big stripe that goes up between the Rio Piedras. This is the stone, the river stone, and this other creek on the other side.
Yeah, as we were driving up, you could see like both creeks.
Yeah, there are many creeks
coming up the valley.
Yeah, like in this area, you have like 6-7 different creeks, and that all go down to the Rio Piedra basin. And this is the aqueduct of Santa Marta. Actually, 60% of the water in Santa Marta comes from this river.
Wow.
So from this canyon.
Yeah. So this is like the clean water source for like, I don't know, probably 100 square miles or something.
Yeah.
Like a big area. And how did you find the farm? How long have you been working on it?
Took me a long while to find it. Like there are many pieces of land here that are very beautiful, but this area has suffered a lot of violence. So many of these plots don't have like legal papers and
property titles.
Exactly,
and all
the
this
property
stuff.
titles.
Yeah.
And many of the owners from these farms are not really the owners. They just like have it from one of these armed groups that gave it to them, either guerrilla during the coca plantation time, or the paramilitary during the coca plantation time, or the guerrillas during the marijuana bonanza that we had like in the 60s, 70s.
Yeah, so it's cool that you found this. You said it took a couple years to find like a good piece of property here.
More than 2 years.
And that was 3 years ago.
That was already like I started 5 years ago.
5 years.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, a lot of the coffee that we showed you guys earlier is 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah, like the geisha plantation we saw here in the back, this is only 2 years old. Like this was, it's gonna be 3 at the beginning of 2019. So awesome. I planted this the beginning of 2016.
Yeah, and often coffee takes 4, even 5 full years to get a good crop, and these have already produced twice now. Because everything grows so quickly here, but that sounds great, but it also requires more cleaning, more pruning of the coffee and its surrounding vegetation. So you were saying that you actually do some pruning of the geisha.
Yeah, well, you have like with many other fruits, you would have to trim all the branches back that already fruited. Because they're sterile after that. It's like you shoot a bullet, you have an empty casket. No, it's the same. Like you have to cut them away because they just cost energy for the plant and they're not going to produce again. Yeah. So if you want to keep on the plants producing, you always have to do that every year, mostly. Even when they're starting to grow, like they make one node every month. So every 3 months you would have to cut one. So this induces the growing of side branches, and you would have like a really big branched branch that has lots of producing shoots. And you can get a plant like the national average is like 500 grams per plant, but you can get that up to many kilos, like up to 7-8 kilos if you do it properly.
Yeah, so like that and other things you were telling me about the biodiversity, like a lot of coffee farms I've seen are much more open, and the shade trees are like some citrus, some banana, but that's about it, and they just pack the whole hillside with coffee shrubs and nothing else. And here, like you can see in the drone footage, it looks like a completely natural forest because of what was already here and of what you've been planting.
Yeah, just like because everything grows so fast here, just not cutting new trees back has allowed us in these 2.5 years to have a much bigger forest coverage than we had before.
Yeah.
This has many advantages. Like people, when they grow coffee in the sun, they're just thinking about the production from that time. But like if you compare plants to engines, it's the same. Like you can put a turbo to your engine, it's gonna perform very good for a couple of years, but it's gonna die much sooner.
Yeah.
You can have Arabica plants that are up to hundreds of years and they still produce. But like the Caturros, that was ideally the one they conceived for the sun. They don't live that long.
Right.
And they don't have like, they're really dependent on exterior fertilizers. Like they have to come with chemicals every 6 months at least, because the soil doesn't have any newer sources of organic matter. Like here we have the whole forest coverage that is decaying. It's actually delivering nutrients to the floor and to the plants that are growing underneath. This also delivers food for a lot of animals that move that matter, so they move this energy around, so everything is just working. It's a living ecosystem, you know? Like, you cannot treat a plantation on an area that is this big as something artificial. You have to be very aware that
let all of these things grow together the way they naturally want to, but then also protect certain plants.
Exactly, like what you can do is just give some advantages to the plants that you're growing, to the plants that are going to give you the good shade for the coffee. Of course, the plants that deliver fruit. So you just give them some advantage, but you cannot manipulate this whole thing. Like it's too big.
Because like you said, you could just open everything up and turn on the turbo for a couple years and you would get a crazy amount of coffee
for a couple of years until the soil is depleted,
and then you ruin the soil. So you have to find this balance between the profitability and the business cycle. The sustainability of the ecosystem, but also of your business. But people would think that these have to be in conflict, and they don't.
Not really. It's like, if you look at this in a bigger time scale, you're gonna notice that growing in the sun is just gonna be beneficial for a couple of years, and after that you have depleted soil that is good for nothing, and you have the coffee plants are also long gone because
so instead of this short-sightedness which only sees 5 or 10 years, we can just grow as much as possible. But if you're thinking much longer term, then you're creating not only coffee but other cash crops. You have a more healthy farm, and you're protecting, like you said, this is not by accident that you are near this water source. You're protecting the biodiversity and the water for a really big area.
Exactly.
Speaking of, I think the water's ready.
Yeah, the water is boiling. And that's one aspect of growing in the shade. The other one of growing in the shade and having different plants in all of these plots is having biodiversity, so you don't have to worry about plagues in these monocultures that when you have, for example, the coffee rust fungus of the coffee beetle borer. Like if you have this monoculture full of coffee, hectares and hectares big, this is just paradise for them. They can just eat as much as they want and reproduce as fast as they can, and this is when you have plagues. Here, like, we have these pathogens present, but they never exploit. Like,
it's like you were saying,
kept at bay because there is other insects that prey on them. Like, for example, ants, they prey on this beetle. You have birds that eat this beetle. You have even a fungus called Bavaria bassiana that you can also spray. We sometimes do that, and they would infest the nests inside the bean when they're laying eggs. So you would see like the entrance of the beetle in the bean. Maybe you have seen that. and then you have like a white cotton top on it, then you know it's they're dead inside.
Crazy. And yeah, speaking of the ants, you were saying like one time, like if you take too much and there's only coffee left in a certain area, then that coffee is going to have other problems because the insects and different things, they, you know, if there's nothing else to eat, they have to eat the coffee.
Yeah.
So if you have again more variety, then naturally, like there are, you know, some birds, but all of the bugs, like coffee is not the first thing that they're going to want.
Yeah, we had this problem when I first arrived because they were doing the cleansings, like leaving nothing at all but coffee plants in the plots.
Right.
And this is like from one day to the other, all the insects and animals from these plots have nothing more to eat. So those that can would just start eating your coffee plant because there's the only thing still standing.
Right.
This is very normal. So you have to leave them food, enough food for them, enough places for them to find homes there. And all of these animals, like when you say energy is matter and vice versa, like all this biomass that moves and dies somewhere else is creating new soil, is giving nutrients to the soil. Like you cannot just have like the soil empty of any coverage and only the coffee plants or soybeans or whatever you're planting. This is unreal.
With most places, they're worried about the water conservation. And here, like you have the natural rainy season and, you know, fresh water from springs and creeks. But if you just have water and rocks, you're not going to grow anything. So, yeah, this literally conserving the energy of different life forms. It's easy to take those away. It's not so easy to reintroduce them and, you know, spend years and years to restore an ecosystem. It's better just to preserve it.
Preserve it, yeah, and like give back what you take from the soil. Like you can nowadays calculate very precisely if you're taking out of an hectare of coffee, you're taking, let's say, just 1 ton of coffee.
Yeah.
You know exactly how much amount of calcium you're taking away, how much amount of nitrogen, how much amount of carbon, everything. So if you don't have anything else, they're giving this biomass back, you will have to put it in chemical manner, at least.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, next year, your soil is lacking that. Like, you're not gonna have the same production because the soil doesn't have it, and it's not renewing itself. But what big trees do mostly is like when they tap very deep inside the soil with the roots, they're allocating resources like minerals, nutrients. They're bringing it back from underneath the ground to upside the ground, and when the leaves and branches fall down again, like they're recycling all of these minerals.
Yeah.
So they're really necessary for the soil and for the health of the ecosystem.
So from this understanding of an organic farm, it sounds like it has very little to do with the trend of organic consumption, which especially in the US is just overpriced and manipulated. It's rarely is it truly organic, and rarely are this coffee and other products coming from a farm that is a complete ecosystem and fully sustainable. So what is the reason for you to do all of this? Because like you said, it's not that instant cash explosion as just wiping out a hillside and planting coffee.
Like if you have like 1 hectare of only coffee, of course, if we only count for this crop of this year, you're gonna produce a much bigger amount of this inorganic monoculture coffee than from this organic shade-grown forest coffee.
Yeah,
of course. And this is why organic should be much more expensive, like real organic. But what happens nowadays, this trend is just like, it's just marketing. This is just playing with people's consciousness, like
Right. Their guilt about
exactly
ruining the planet.
exactly. So when
Yeah.
you're in the supermarket, in front of the shelf, you have these two coffees. The normal one that it's like, let's say 15 US a pound, and then you have the other one that is maybe 20, and it's organic and fair trade.
Yeah.
From these $5 more that you're paying for a pound, here we get 15 cents for that pound. So,
So
30 cents for the kilo.
Right. So through the costs of certification such as organic and fair trade, in the consumer's mindset, oh, it's worth 25, 30, 40% more to me because of my guilt or my perception that this is actually better for the earth and better for that supply chain, which in coffee should help the producer to make a better living and be able to continue to grow.
It's also supposed to be healthier.
That level of coffee, and it's better. Yeah, it doesn't have these other things in it, but over and over we're seeing that this is not the case because just because it has the USDA or different organic certifications or fair trade, equal exchange, rainforest, etc., it means that someone had to pay a lot more for the label, and they received 15 cents if your coffee is worth $2, $3, even $4 a pound. That's a significant cut to your production.
Well, yeah, but in reality, it's not like these 30 cents per pound here. There's not even 1,000 pesos more.
Yeah.
For 1 kilo of coffee.
Oh, so you're saying even if the label cost is that much per pound, you can't sell it for that much more.
No, and these are the ones selling it outside. Like the farmer only gets 30 cents more out of that. Even if the coffee is $5 to $10 more, we're only getting 30 cents more. And this is for both together, organic and fair trade.
Right.
So is that really fair? I don't think so.
Yeah.
And nothing is also really organic because the farmer here is obliged to use synthetic fertilizers and herbicides and everything, because otherwise if he produces too less, then it's not gonna make it. Like right now the price of coffee is under $1 a kilo.
Yeah, tell me how you feel about the C market right now.
This is just crazy. It's just like our whole capitalism and consumerism society has gone so deep with raw material prices that this is not gonna be
major downside to globalization.
Yeah, like
is this too connected to the price, even though maybe coffee is doing really well in one country and really bad in another, but the price of the bigger country screws things up for the smaller producing
the thing right
country.
now is just that since Brazil started producing that big amount of coffee, like they set the price because they have the biggest volume. So if they're producing a lot of coffee this year, the price is gonna sink. If they produce less coffee, the price goes up, but it doesn't go that up that it's really worth it. Like really, only $1 or less than $1 to produce 1 kilogram of coffee is the joke. Like I have to pay the pickers, not even the workers, to plant the plants, to fertilize them, to trim them, to transport the coffee, to dry the coffee, to everything, all the processing that coffee has that is a lot. Just for the pickers, I'm not even accounting for all of that. The pickers cost me $1 for that kilo. So for coffee to be sustainable, you will have to pay at least like $3. And this is why you have nowadays less and less coffee farmers everywhere in the world. Like they're just being bankrupt, and it's just the big rich societies that continue with the business because the business is not going to end anyway. They're just going to have poor people from poorer countries do the job, like what's happening now. It's people from Laos, Vietnam, maybe in the future even India, or I don't know what.
India is growing some good coffees, and like we were talking about, our friends in Nepal are growing, Thailand. So it's interesting to look forward, because if you just look at the data of coffee produced, the known major players that are producing coffee, Brazil, Colombia, etc., then they're saying the demand is going to keep going up, and the production will be less and less, and the major coffee science groups are saying climate change and these other excuses, which are valid. Climate changes, there are all these variables to production, but the biggest downfall for producing really good sustainable coffee is the price. So there's this vacuum when the overproducers, let's call them, you're producing such a big volume at such a low price that the complaint is that there aren't enough producers who are doing everything right and taking the time and care to create better coffee. So biodiversity and paying a fair wage to their pickers, their all these people that do these different parts in processing. And so if someone's actually doing all of those things, it's very expensive, but they maybe don't have the means of a major exporter. So there's this huge imbalance where investors just go with what's easy and they'll get a for sure return on, like a really big producer, exporter, roaster. And not very many investors are like, I could invest in this a little bit smaller farm that's still producing a good volume and a good quality.
And give the money direct to them so they can subsist.
Yeah, right. And now the farm can continue, people can get paid. So that, to me, that is an interesting part, is that people talk about the green sustainability, women's rights, good payment, all these things which are important, but the people with the choice to invest in those things don't. Not very many.
No, and it's like the ones making the money are like exporters, importers, and roasters and coffee places all over the world. Like from the whole amount of money that moves, like 5% is for the farmers.
Yeah, it's so hot.
It's just like really crazy.
Yeah.
And this is the most difficult, important part of the whole chain. If there are no farmers, there's not going to be any coffee. So you can have the best coffee roasters, you can have the best coffee machines, the nicest coffee places, but once coffee is over, there's no more business.
Right.
So right now, like the only coffee that is business is specialty coffee. Like if you know your business good enough, you can produce a percentage of your crop can be specialty coffee, and this is better paid.
Yeah.
But the amount that you get out of it, it's
smaller volume, higher cost.
20% of your whole production that you can turn into really, really good coffee, like specialty coffee. Salud.
Salud. Oh, it's hot. It's really hot. It was at like 100. Nice. That's good. We just got right into it. No, I love, like, I try to explain this sometimes to other people, like, in other industries. But to me, a little biased because it's my work as well, but coffee seems to be the most connected product, not just internationally with all the trading and coffee grows here, but it's roasted and consumed somewhere else. Aside from all of that, it's the most connected to, I think, some of the world's core problems, like with climate, with gender,
I think it's
with
the
wealth.
whole food production that it's really involved in that, and it's like the same problematic for every other product worldwide. Like, it doesn't really matter if it's oil, coffee, sugar, whatever you call it. So it's just the producers that are being fucked up. They're just being kept poor, so they work for this minimum of existence, and so other people can be rich. Like,
right.
There's no other way that it can work. Like, if you pay all of these farmers a wage like in Europe or in America, no one would work here.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard work. So
right.
They would be working somewhere else, or they would be not working if they have enough money, you know? Like,
yeah. Well, it's interesting because, like, if you take the hourly wage here and just do an exact conversion, I don't think it's a good comparison, because I know
not.
people who work in an office job, but they have essentially the same thing. Like, they just make enough to pay rent and eat and, you know, relax.
Yeah, but it's just you have all this stuff around your life that is just so costly. Like, you have a rent that it's like $1,000. You have an insurance that is 300. You have food that you're not gonna spend less than 800, 900 eating a month.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the end you don't have much, but it's like the life that you want to have there. So you want to have, if you want to eat mangoes, well, you have to pay the price for mangoes and avocados delivered in your country, no? And everything is just more expensive there. But here it's like, I agree, you cannot just convert the money and say it's too little, but if you look like poor people live here in South America and you look like poor people live in Europe or in America, like there's a huge difference anyway.
Yeah, no, not saying it's the same, but yeah, it's crazy. Like, even if you wanted to pay more to some seasonal workers, it's still hard to find people who are going to stay for an entire harvest and pick really well, and you know that employment works differently, you know.
Yeah, no one wants to do this job anymore. Like, the paying is bad, the work is really demanding, like physically mostly. And right now, if it's raining, the coffee pickers have to continue working, otherwise they have no money. The average age for the pickers in Colombia right now, it's 50 years, 50 or 55, something like that. So the new generations, they just want to lease a motorbike and make like runs for money.
Yeah. And
they get like, if you get $10 a day, this is already the wage that you would get in a farm. So you're covered in a drive for 20 minutes. So the young people don't want to do this job anymore.
Right.
And this is mainly because they're being badly paid.
Yeah.
I understand that as well.
Right.
But if the coffee prices are so low, like, you can also not pay more than that. Like
yeah. Well, and just to extend my experience as well, like, there's the actual economy within a small growing region. You know, the people that live there and work there, different kinds of producers, some who grew up on a farm, some who purchase farms, and then you have your tourists who are coming to volunteer or just kind of check things out. You have green buyers from different roasters and importers who are, you know, hunting around to see the quality of your coffee and these different things. And then, you know, traders like me who want to understand the story and to work to sell the coffee as well. And so it's not just, you know, one group. It's your relationship to all these other businesses and these different parts of the industry.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's a little bit of our thoughts on coffee producing in Colombia. Hope you guys enjoy. If you have any questions, comment, and we will maybe reach out. But yeah, now we have a little bit more surveying to do.
Yeah, it stopped raining, so we're gonna go walk up to the highest geisha plot. So it's gonna be like 1 hour walking from here. We're gonna check how the new plants are coming, if they're doing their job properly, and then we come back.
Let's do it.
You have something like a dry bag or something in case it rains?
Mm-mm.
No?